Okay, guys,
Oh,
welcome back. And I see that for the first time in a couple of months, we're all here. So, Phil and Madeline, welcome back and to Leading from Home.
Thank you.
Hi.
And we must start with you, Phil, because you're, since we're talking about, well, how to adapt from COVID and these type of things, you're actually in quarantine. So, how'd you end up in quarantine? But on the plus side, you had a good time. So, do you want to talk us through how was your week off?
Thanks very much. Yeah, so yeah, here I am in quarantine, having been to France for a long weekend. One of those opportunities which we're several months in the planning, and with my son, but more importantly with my dad, who's 89, to go to visit the Normandy beaches. Probably the highlight of the whole experience was as we were coming closer to this, and it looked likely that we were going into quarantine. My dad said, "Do you think we should put it off for another year?" And I looked at him and I thought, that is a very ambitious mindset. I mean, at 89, he says, "Oh no, we'll do this next year." But it was extremely valuable, extremely worthwhile, lovely quality time with both my son and my dad. And probably not something else that we're likely to reproduce in the near future. So a price worth paying, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really important as we talk about adapting, like both at work, but also to in family lives, in terms of the whole COVID thing doesn't mean we have to just sit still and then close up the doors. That we adapt and use common sense, and I think putting your family first and being sensible, that's how we can make things work. And I think. As we said, making family work is super important, rather than the mental issues that we're facing with people who says, "I can't do anything, I'm stuck in my house," and everything's caving in between us.
You're absolutely right.
Quarantine's a good time to do some reflection, and maybe feel you can do some yoga. There's plenty of things you can do in 2 weeks by yourself. So think of the upside, read some books, watch some football.
Thank you, Sean. I'm going to look forward to watching some rugby, I think, and that will be something to look forward to.
Exactly.
Forward to hear from the yoga that you will be doing, Phil, as well.
Yeah, next week, Phil, we're looking forward to, since you've embarked on the stand-up desk, next week, Phil's going to show us some new yoga moves that he's learned. So stay tuned, Leading from Yoga with Phil Stockbridge next week. So that's next week's episode.
I'll be practicing my sun's salutation and my downward dog.
Fantastic. And Madeline, how's things with you? How's the week been, and any big changes with your team and remote working? Any new habits that always brings new inspiration to the podcast?
Thanks, Sean. Well, I had a great end of last week. I had this Corona team meeting with my team, where we actually had a live huddle outside with good distance between each other. Had a coffee together. Actually, we ended up having a dinner together as well outside. It was pretty cold, but it was all safe, and we were sitting quite far away from each other. And I felt an energy in the team coming back, and I got so energized at that myself. Yeah. So that was like the best ending of the week. Throwing myself into this new week, we've had a new team demo that we demoed to all our stakeholders virtually. I mean, we can't meet them, but we're going to have to showcase all the brilliant stuff that we are doing, and also getting the dialogue up with all our key stakeholders. So we're trying this new format and see how it works. And it has been very much appreciated from stakeholders as well as in the team. So it's good energy.
Fantastic. And I think one of the big key messages that we've been discussing in the podcast is about adapting and changing and trying new things. And I think this is probably the best thing that we can sort of keep on reinforcing every week, in terms of COVID isn't going to go away overnight. And if we're hitting the second waves in Europe and the type of things, it's the perfect time to say, as we heard from Gregor, be curious, but also try new things. And I think if people take note of your things, Madeline, in terms of particularly this team huddle outside, that you can still separate after 2 meters, warm clothes, and then, as you say, the benefits of increased energy, bring back that team morale. It's worth it massively. So I think hopefully people can try some of these new things, which brings us into today's topic about performance management, Phil. So this is a big topic of you and how you've been coaching a lot of your leaders. Do you want to start introducing that and kick things off?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I mean, we're coming into an interesting time of the year. It's been an exceptional year. We are now faced with the reality as leaders that we need to give performance ratings to our reports. In complex organizations, this has never been easy. And when you have multiple reporting lines, conflicting priorities, these has always created and posed some challenges. But this year, we have an exceptional set of circumstances. We're asking our leaders to rate the performance of people, and perhaps more importantly, communicate those ratings back to those people based on minimal, if not zero, face-to-face contact. And I think that whilst for some leaders who've led remote teams for a number of years, that might be okay. For a number of leaders who are suddenly faced with actually having to performance manage people who you would have been in an office all of this year up until COVID struck, to now having to give them some objective feedback, that's going to be a massive challenge for them. So, I mean, I think, a couple of things that go through my mind here is that, what is it that you're looking to evaluate? And many organizations now, look at both the objective in terms of what people deliver, but also are very keen to see how people fit and the how. And so are these people good corporate citizens? I think it's an extremely useful measure to work with. And if your organization is doing it, great. And if you're not, it's one of those missing tricks. Because in an environment like ours, being a good corporate citizen, we project the values of our organization often in isolation from everyone else. And somebody who does it well is an incredible, valuable asset. Back in the day when Jack Welch was leading General Electric, he had a classic 4-blocker, which had people who deliver the results and live our values, people who deliver the results and don't live our values, people who don't deliver the results live our values, and then the people who don't deliver the results don't deliver the values. And his challenge to everyone was, how do you deal with these? And well, obviously 2 of the boxes are easy. If they live the values and deliver the results, you reward them, you promote them, they're valuable citizens. If they don't deliver the values and they don't deliver the results, easy.
Yeah,
they go. So now you're left with 2. And I guess this is my challenge to you two. Who are a more valuable asset to an organization? The people who deliver the results but don't live your values, or the people who deliver your values but don't deliver your results?
Madeline, you with your team and also Nadir, what's your sort of feedback and insights with what Phil's been talking about, and how, particularly with evaluating your team, how are you looking at things as you approach the end of the year?
I think what Phil is raising is, from my perspective, extremely interesting and very much well thinking. From my own perspective, I think living the company values are always very important, because you can coach, I would say. It will require a lot from a leader in sometimes, but I'm confident in that everyone that lives company values have somewhere chosen to be at that place. And then the rest is up to you as a leader and as an employee.
Yeah, and I suppose us at SEB, which is the big culture there, is about being there for our customers. Which, when the COVID first hit, that was a big message from our board in terms of we had to be most of us still had to be in the office because of the say that the community needs us, and our service needs to be as good as possible. So our company took the decision to remain physically in office where possible. So to be corporate citizens in terms of as much as that would cause stress or let's say I suppose discomfort, they were flexible in terms of you can come to work later than avoid peak hour and do things to adjust. And I think, Phil, the question in terms of how you manage people this year is that the stuff we talked about, like the change curve, in terms of how have people this year managed change, empathy, how have leaders evoked empathy towards the employees and amongst this change. So I wonder, and I'm hoping that rather than looking at pure deliveries in terms of has Madeline delivered all these things on their projects that she's been promised, as opposed to leaders sitting back there, well, this has been one of probably the most difficult year any of us have any experience. Surely the things like on the soft side or the coaching side that you talk about, Phil, empathy and managing change and keeping up morale, and as Madeline says, trying different things and adapting are the most important things to say that, well, if they've kept the team stabilized through this year, these are the most important things as performance things, as opposed to hard deliveries in terms of what's my ROI, what's my deadline been like compared to every other year. So I feel like Howard, with your experience with leaders and also type of things, is this encroaching in terms of metrics, in terms of how the top are going to manage people, particularly with this year being so difficult, as well as the more, as you said, the change curve and the people side of things emerging as the big success factors?
Well, I think there are two things. So first of all, I mean, so when Madeline reflected on my thoughts, she was absolutely spot on. So yeah, it was really very heartening. So you and Jack Welsh are in complete agreement, Madeline. So it didn't do him too badly. He said, if people are the good corporate citizens and they're delivering the right values, you can work and coach on the performance issues. The ones who are delivering but not living your values are a poison to an organization and can undermine your reputation. And it's with global organizations like yours, can cause enormous problems. Mm. That said, I think part of the challenge for us as line managers as we go into the performance cycle is that if people are not delivering the results and maybe getting a difficult message that they haven't been delivering the results, even though they are good people, they are going to require some very careful coaching. And you have a very practical problem to overcome as leaders, is that what do you put in place in order to ensure that you can demonstrate to them, to yourself and to your organization that they're taking the steps to deliver the results that they've set? Because again, doing that all remotely is another step beyond doing it when you're in a face-to-face and office environment. So don't underestimate it, but it's the right thing to do. That's the thing. I think, to your point, I think it is quite remarkable in a very depressing way, just how slow and reluctant some people have been to the changes that have taken place. We're now in October. The UK lockdown came in the middle of March, and in other countries, earlier than that. And yet, it still seems that some people want to go back to a way of living and a way of leading that is exactly as it was before. And I kind of asked myself, have you learned nothing from this process? Yeah. It really does frustrate me that we have such wonderful opportunities to lead in a better way and to live in a better way. Yeah. As leaders of our businesses and as members of our households and communities, and we've got these opportunities if only we take them.
I actually feel that was probably the best, best quote that I like to emphasize to everybody that you just said. Have you learned nothing? In terms of, as people like to say, this is an opportunity to reset. And I think so many articles have come out across almost every newspapers this year about top leaders and executives all the way down to employees and saying, isn't it great that I've spent more time with my family, with my kids? I can pick up my kids, like CEOs saying that this has been great. This is an opportunity for me to actually pick up my kids from school, spend more quality time. And these are things that, hey, maybe it's not too bad to work 1 day or 2 days a week from home. And then this are the things that the leaders who are successful actually reflecting upon this and saying that, hey, this has actually opened up my eyes. I've experimented being forced to work from home, and I've actually found more time to I'm at home for dinner with my kids and my wife, and all the other things, the positive things. So I suppose the best thing that we like to emphasize here is that people, please, as you come to the end of the year, reflect about what is working, what is, as in for the family and for work, not just like, I must race back to work, as opposed to when this is all over, go back to the old normal, because going back to change, the only thing that doesn't change is change itself. So, Madeline, what's your view in terms of, reflecting upon this opportunity to reset and what people have learned, and particularly yourself, like what are the biggest learnings you've discovered, and both from your team as well as from what you've yourself and the family?
It's a really good question, Sean, and I think I think probably that this is the time where you can truly see the people that lives through changes, and with that said, I mean that people not just saying that I like change and I embrace change, no, because here you can really tell people who really like change and to embrace innovation and change, those are the ones that see the opportunities and seize them in order. I mean, these were the executives picking up their kids, seeing the opportunities in having dinner with the families and so on. I mean, going back to my team, I see people taking these opportunities and, okay, well, we're sitting from home. It sucks not seeing colleagues in face to face, but what can I do to do the best out of this? Yeah, I can take a lunch walk, which I can't normally do in the nature. Yeah. I just discuss for some air. I can exercise or do some running or so on, which I normally can't do. So trying to embrace change and seize the opportunities, and then to get some energy back to yourself, because I mean, it isn't natural to be locked in and not seeing people for real, but you can do a lot of things and you can seize these opportunities, and that has been like that for me personally, trying to find these golden nuggets in, well, the situation is what it is. I can't affect a pandemic, but I can do something that makes me feel better, and bring out the best of it, and just take these opportunities.
Exactly, and I think that's where we keep on emphasizing these opportunities, and that's where I think we've talked about, curiosity, particularly Greg Orman with his book The Human Edge, as well as he had a post last week about putting it out there to people that what are some inspirational ways to generate creativity virtually, and that's because of physically we have whiteboards and we have face to face where we bump up to each other up and down the staircase or by the water fountain or the coffee machine. But now that's been taken away. There's been a dip in creativity, but going back to that, it's still in our heads. So Phil, what are ways that people can, talk about inspiration opportunities that's we're going to be working from home for quite a bit longer for other people, but how can people increase their creativity or create creative moments between each other virtually? Because there are multiple ways we can do it. So what are the ones that you've been coaching your leaders with and clients?
Well, I'd love to take the credit for this next idea, but I can't, because it was from a guy that I've been coaching, a super leader who loves a whiteboard, and realized that actually his creativity was waning because he wasn't in an office and he didn't have a whiteboard. Well, he does now, and he has his whiteboard in his office, and guess what? When he wants to get into the creative mode, he stands up, he moves over to his whiteboard, the camera can still see him, the camera can see the whiteboard, and he uses the whiteboard in exactly the same way as he did before. It's such a simple
creative mindset,
but I want to share it with you, because you know what? It's made a difference to him, and I know it's made a difference to the people that he works with. So
I love that story, Phil, and I will take that with me, because we have discussed that in my team, and particularly the whiteboard sessions. So I will steal that one with pride.
Thank you. I think that the next thing that I'd say is that actually, interestingly, there is an awful lot of work that's been done that says that although you don't get the kind of the interactivity of when you're face to face that when you're remote that you do when you're face to face, actually when it comes to idea submission, remoteness can actually be of a value. And the reason for that being that actually in the absence of any peer pressure, I can submit my idea. completely free from your influences. And actually, when I can do that because I'm completely remote, when it gets to you, it's actually a lot more pure than it would have been if we'd been in a room together. Because by the time Phil, what do you think?
Yeah.
I would have heard Madeline's point of view. I would have heard Sean's point of view, and maybe several of others. And if mine was completely at odds with that, I'd probably be a lot more reluctant to share it.
Yeah.
So actually, creativity remotely, it works because people can contribute quite pure ideas. It just requires a lot more facilitation.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that about creativity in a remote environment, you often overcome the hippo principle. I don't know if you're familiar with the hippo. I'm looking at Madeline now. You might not be familiar with the hippo principle, but Sean clearly is. Sean, tell Madeline about the hippo principle.
I have no clue, so I'm all ears.
That's that's right. It's the highest. Was it the
highest paid?
Basically, the most important, but it's the highest individual paid in the was it office? Is that right? Something about I know what it's about, but Phil, you before I screw it up.
Highest paid person's opinion.
That's right. Yeah.
Highest paid person's opinion, hippo.
And basically, and that's where I remember you introduced that to our coaching, Phil, in terms of, and they're the ones who are always dominant, and basically the people who are less confident or who are down the food chain but have some of the best ideas don't get heard because of like the boss says, well, this is how it's going to be done, and these are the ideas, and right. And everybody agrees, and everybody's going to nod because of the hippo basically is like is the man in the room in terms of, regardless of I've got a better idea, I better not say it because I'm not worthy or I'm not paid or my title doesn't mean that I justify bringing it up. So hence that the hippo always generates the dialogue.
So if you use something like Menti,
I was going to say, like some of these tools out there that
Menti is a lovely software that you can generate surveys on. You do it; it doesn't, so your opinions and your ideas come in anonymously. So again, the opinions appear onto the screen. They're completely rank free. They are they're name free. They're culture free. And it just creates a very different creativity when it comes to idea generation.
I was going to say exactly that, Phil, because you've got a very unique coaching style in terms of you don't use a whiteboard and you don't sit in front of a PowerPoint. You flip chart and colors, and that's where for like people like yourself that behind you that you have the exact same setup that you would when you're physically coaching other clients, but then people don't have to answer it on the spot, as you say, setting up a Menti tool so that, okay guys, these are the things that I'm going to teach, these are the questions that when we come back to tomorrow, everybody put in the Menti your answers and your response, and that way you're getting the exact same input, the exact same response, and you're delivering the exact same way as your coach. So that's a thing that just means that it's not all done at the same time in the same place. It's sliced up, but with the right tools, you can still the same creativity, the same collaboration, but in a different way. And I think that's where we need to emphasize that thinking outside the box, adapting, and try new things, try new tools.
In some of the work that I've done in the past, we came up with a concept called planned spontaneous communication. And I think that the takeaway for this is that you can have creativity, but it has to be planned creativity. And I think that's the key difference. So you don't have the water cooler moment where you can kind of bounce some ideas off in a very random way. Everything has to be planned, and I think that's one of the core leadership skills for remote leaders. When you lead from home, everything needs to be planned. Your communication, your spontaneous communication, you're reaching out to your colleagues, and your creativity too. And it sounds a little bit forced, but again, all my experience says, look, put it into your diary. People will value it, and you just need to make it part of the way you work.
Yeah, and I suppose to add to that too, like on the flip side of creativity, you have stress and how the brain works in terms of the more stressed you are, the more difficult it is to have creative or new ideas. And if you look on the positive side of the pandemic, that people are working from home, which means that they don't have to go to commuting back and forth and stress, drop off, come to work, they're meeting about creativity and then got 1,000 things in their mind. When they've relaxed, go to work, drop off the kids and come back home and they're relaxed, you're going to have more creativity given from people because of straight away they come into a call relaxed without the commuting stress. So as I say, if you do things early on in the morning when people are at their best, you're going to get a lot bigger output than if you had it at work when people could have had a bad day commuting, which most of the time, particularly in London, you're stuck on a tube and they're never going to be creative. So I think these are the type of things that people are in the best environment right now to be creativity because of, like Madeline, they're covered with creative pictures behind them, relaxed environment, you have more time. So I think anything, we should be having more creativity because of we have a great environment to relax with. Madeline, what's your opinion in terms of creativity and how you get that out of your team and curiosity?
I honestly think it's kind of hard. I struggle with creativity when sitting like this. So I value all the tips and tricks that I can get. And I have a little bit difficulties to find that I need to plan creativity, but I will wrap my head around that and see and try and see what comes out of it.
And then we'll put the link of this Menti tool too with the show notes after this, because I think for those who haven't used it, as Phil said, it's a brilliant tool that you're going to be anonymous, but at the same time too, rather than everybody looking at other people, what do they write, and then copy the same, it shows you that people can put what they feel or want to put down, and then everybody will have their results shown at the same time, which I think, as I say, to have the hippo eliminated, the Menti is the best level of in terms of some of the smartest brains, could be the youngest, could be the least paid, but at the end of the day, you want their best thoughts and best ideas brought forward regardless of title or experience or how much they get paid. Well, I can see we're almost out of time, and as the most motivating things is finding out what's on for our weekends. And Phil, I suppose we must start with you because you can't go to the pub, but how are you looking forward to the weekend in quarantine? Is there something curious or creative that you're going to do to manage the situation?
I'm going to make the most of not being able to get too far away and give the house a little bit of TLC, do a little bit of cooking, which is part of my creativity, and probably
Fantastic.
Get the guitar out and just blast that away for a bit. So watch out, neighbours. Actually,
maybe next week too. Speaking of, if you're not going to do yo, you can give us a bit of a rendition of the guitar for next week, so we can see your creative sides of Phil coming out next week. So we've got to have a mini what do you call it? A mini jam with Phil next week. So everybody, we have a lot to look forward to next week, either yoga or jamming.
I don't feel under any pressure at all.
Multiple choice for next week of what Phil will be doing next week: cooking, guitar, or yoga. And Madeline, anything since you're not in quarantine and we have nature all around us? What do you got for next week? On the weekend.
Actually, thanks to the pandemic, I would say I will be able to just close my laptop a little bit earlier, and then within 5 minutes being able to pick up my kids. So I will have an early weekend and pick up my kids, enjoy spending time with them, and not commuting anywhere, and then just see where the wind takes us.
Fantastic. And actually, speaking of commuting, because I do commute because our office is open, next week I'll show you my new e-bike that I now have purchased as a new way of adapting to COVID and avoiding the train and buses. So there you go. We have some creativity and inspiration from all of us to share next week.
Brilliant. Lovely. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Great. Thanks, guys, and have a nice weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.